Daisy was determined to win. She wanted to shut the argument down, to have the final word, to make sure Raymond knew just how done she was. In that split second of raw frustration, she didn't think. She didn't pause to weigh the fallout. The words slipped from her tongue before she could pull them back. "You argue too much for a man. No wonder you're so small down there." The instant the sentence left her lips, the entire atmosphere shifted. The fire of anger that had filled the room a moment before didn't explode into shouting or more insults. It collapsed into something much heavier. Silence. Raymond didn't fire back, didn't spit out a cutting remark the way he usually would. His face froze, his jaw tightened. His fists curled just slightly at his sides. But his eyes said everything. For the first time in their marriage, Daisy saw something in him that terrified her. Not rage. Not annoyance. Something deeper. Betrayal, humiliation. Devastation so quiet and raw it hollowed him out in front of her. She had pierced a place in him she was never meant to touch. A wound she didn't even know existed. Without a word, Raymond turned and walked away. Daisy stayed where she was, bracing herself for him to come storming back. Ready to argue, to shout, to slam a door. But he never did. The silence that followed was worse than any scream. If you've ever been in a relationship, you know how fights usually play out: raised voices, maybe someone storms out, but eventually there's talking, or at least some form of acknowledgement. Not this time. That night, Raymond never returned to their bed. At first, Daisy didn't worry. She assumed he just needed space, that he'd slip back under the covers once she was asleep. But when morning came and she reached across the bed, his side was still empty. The unease hit her immediately. Raymond had never done this before. Even after their ugliest fights, he always came back. Even if it was just to turn his back on her in silence. But this time he was gone. She searched the house, half expecting to find him brewing coffee or sulking on the couch. Instead, she found him in the guest room, sitting motionless on the edge of the bed. He wasn't angry, wasn't pacing or shouting. He was just still, his expression blank, like someone who had shut down completely. "Raymond?" she asked gently. "Nothing. Why are you sleeping here?" No reply. She stepped closer, pleading, asking if he was still upset, asking if he would come back to bed. Finally he spoke, but it wasn't anger, wasn't even coldness. It was silence that weighed like iron. His pain filled the room louder than words ever could. Days went by, and nothing changed. Daisy kept telling herself he'd snap out of it. But he didn't. He avoided her. If she entered a room, he left. If she tried to talk, he gave her nothing. When she reached for him, he recoiled. This wasn't a fight anymore, it was erasure. It was as if she no longer existed in his world. She tried to repair things the only way she knew how. She cooked his favorite meals, but he barely touched them. She tried to joke, but he didn't smile. She brushed his hand in the hallway, but he stiffened at her touch. Nothing broke through. That's when the terror sank in. Daisy had always believed anger meant there was still something worth saving. Because if you fight, at least you still care. But now there was only silence. Silence that felt permanent. What Daisy didn't know was that her words hadn't just hurt him in that moment. They had torn open an old wound he had buried for years. Raymond had always been insecure about his size. He never discussed it, not with friends, not with anyone, but it haunted him from his teenage years. He remembered the locker room whispers, the cruel jokes, the rumor that spread in high school. It wasn't even true, but it reached the girl he liked, and he never forgot the way she looked at him afterward, not with disgust but with indifference. Like he didn't matter. Later, in his last serious relationship, he had faced betrayal. He'd walked in on it himself. When he demanded to know why, she didn't cry or deny it. She just shrugged and said flatly, "You can't satisfy me." That single line destroyed him. Some scars never heal, they only get buried. So he buried everything. The shame, the whispers, the humiliation. He built a shell of confidence, brick by brick. He carried himself tall, convincing himself he had outgrown those shadows. And then he met Daisy. With her he felt safe. With her, he thought the past no longer mattered. She never made him feel small, never made him doubt himself. He believed she saw the real him. Until that night, when she threw the words at him. "No wonder you're so tiny down there." In an instant, It all came rushing back. High school whispers, his ex's betrayal, every insecurity he thought he had conquered. And this time, it wasn't a rumor or an unfaithful girlfriend. It was his wife. The one person he thought would never go there. For the first time, he questioned if he could ever see her the same way again. A dark thought crept in. Was she already unfaithful? Daisy, meanwhile, clung to the belief that things would eventually improve, that they would find their way back to each other. But the longer his silence stretched, the more she felt him slipping away. Then one night, she reached her breaking point. She walked into the guest room and found the bed empty, the shower running in the bathroom. His phone sat on the bed, screen glowing. She hesitated, but fear pushed her to look. An email notification flashed on the screen. Subject: regarding divorce proceedings. Her heart stopped. Divorce. No, this couldn't be real. She told herself it had to be a mistake, but deep down she knew. Raymond wasn't just mad. He wasn't sulking. He was planning to leave her. When he came out of the bathroom, she was waiting. Her voice trembled. Are you really going to divorce me over one argument? For the first time in weeks, he looked at her. His voice was calm, almost too calm. You think this is just about that night? And in that moment she understood. This wasn't about one fight. This was about every unspoken hurt, every unresolved issue, every wound she had ignored. Her insult had only been the final blow. She begged, she apologized, she cooked, she left notes, she tried to start small conversations. Nothing worked. His replies were empty, shrugs, nods, a quiet "I don't know." She could feel it. He knew already. He just hadn't said it aloud. Then one evening, she saw him standing at the guest bed. A suitcase open, clothes folded inside. Her breath caught. This was it. He was leaving. She stepped into the room, her voice barely audible. Are you really going? He sighed, his shoulders heavy. For a long time he said nothing, gripping the suitcase like it was the only thing keeping him steady. Finally he looked at her. I don't know if I can get past this. The words shattered her. Tears filled her eyes. I love you, she whispered. I made a mistake. I'd take it back if I could. Just tell me what to do. His reply was quiet, firm. You can't take back what you said. And I can't unhear it. He paused, then added softly. But maybe I don't want to walk away. Not yet. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't a promise. But it was something. And for Daisy, that fragile something was all she had left to cling to.